Yay, photos. Do that for sure.
Okay, well there's a book here, and you can pay for it on your way out. Maybe bring the square back here.
Do what?
And we have a square.
She doesn't want to forget later. She has my copy that I learned how to read. She was reading the story, right? Tracy, you want me to hold that to take a picture of the courtyard? Jameson, you don't have a copy. I need to instruct a copy to you. No,
Small, it's fine. Something smaller.
but I don't know what the song is. You would have larger? I can probably read it. I don't even know. I bought my reading glasses.
I can read it.
Well, you should do it. Where it's beautiful. With all this behind it. Yeah, you're gonna get in the photo with this, Jason.
What's that? Sasha's nipper, like your nipper girl. That's higher, maybe. God, he's got 21 people? That's incredible. Gloria. That's Dr. Gloria Fierro, the preeminent. Now we have 11, and that's quarter time. And the reading will start soon. Hey, hey guys. Hi Juan. Hi Cosmic. Hey Angela, how are you doing, honey? Good to see you. Are you guys in Mexico? That's so cool. David and Angela are in Mexico. Isn't that awesome? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, no, it might not be the Angela that's with David in Mexico, but hey, yeah, the reading will start soon. Hang out, come back if you want. I'm gonna find a good place to put the camera. Isn't it pretty? Yeah. Do you guys want to go into the bookstore? Hi, Angela Guevara. Welcome to New Orleans. Yeah, you got to watch your footing in here. I mean, this whole place is designed for drainage, right? Because we're below sea level, actually, here in New Orleans. Yay, book signings.
You got 8 things over here.
Where's a good perspective? I think up there, actually. Hey. Hey.
This is my son Jason.
Hey, Ken. Nice to meet you.
You remember the couple that I told you I went out to their party in Bywater?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And they give these big
Excellent.
parties?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
This is the most interesting guy at the party.
Yay. Hey, sorry about that. Hey, sorry about that. So this guy here lives in the same building, or lived in New York in the same building our mom currently has a small painting studio in. How crazy is that? And nobody's here. Hey, sorry the feed dropped out for a minute, guys. Apologize. Looking for a good place to put the camera where you'll still be able to hear the reading and enjoy the lovely courtyard. Let me back up.
Michael Randy will start, and then Michael will grab somebody whose husband doesn't know.
Like here would actually be a really good spot for it, but I don't know if you guys can hear. When she gives the reading, you're probably gonna have to be a lot closer. The reading starts at 3. Yeah. Sure, Mom. Oh, good idea. Yeah, absolutely. Of course. Yeah, more than one. We need red and white. I'll take a... That's right. Oh, Jesus Christ.
So, can I buy this book now?
Yeah, I think it's a register, actually.
I have to register?
Yeah, I think you have to, like, we can't check people out.
Sasha and Jason and Mark would you over here? You might give me the other shirts.
Yeah. Well, kind of. She was gonna try to stream it, but it's really hard to get a. Well, kind of. She was gonna try to stream it, but it's really hard to get a connection in here because of all the buildings. Really? Yeah. Oh, I mean, I have one, but it's like dicey. Like just as soon as, yeah, I'll probably have to do that. Oh yeah, sure. Do you guys want anything to drink? Wine or champagne, white or red or champagne?
We don't have a built-in bar.
Yeah, it's gonna be in a go cup.
My son, the
So what can you
bartender,
do?
you know, that's
Should red and white? Well, I have to tell you, it looks like there's some extra dry champagne and a little bit of Merlot. And yes.
Karen.
Hi. Hi, Karen.
I caused all kinds of problems with him with my scooter. I'm parked outside.
Yeah, I'm the only
Parking
person that
outside.
stayed in your place.
Yeah,
Thank you
he-
so much.
on the floor.
No, well, on a
Well, he
mattress.
bought
You
his
know,
own
on an air mattress.
But he's here to pick me up,
Probably
to
the
drive me
first year
back.
we owned that, and we were
Yeah.
here a month and away a month. We had an air mattress, is what we
Yeah,
used
sure,
until
of
we got
course.
down
Yeah.
to it was when Horowitz Mintz was on Royal.
Oh, yes.
Because it was
Yeah, yeah.
1990.
Yes.
So,
What would you like? We have red wine and sparkling. Where's the sparkling? Okay.
Okay, great.
Would you take care of that? and
Sure.
keep The phone, please.
I'm not on the phone. I'm taking pictures like you asked me to.
Just didn't want it to.
Mental assistance. Will provide, right? Did you have your cards with you for this? Card.
I don't even know if I pick it up. I don't know.
Michael and Randy are coming next week. Yeah, it's just a shame.
You're leaving like
I am leaving probably out in Texas. We have a mutual affection for my Justice. You remember Maya? So she normally sings. I looked at her every slot. She was not back.
I think some of the projects on the big festival.
She's fine.
if I weren't heterosexual, she'd be.
It's not all about him.
I am heterosexual.
You love her? She's fabulous.
I always tell the story because I met her the first week I was here.
Yeah.
And I introduced myself.
Other than the fact that
Randy said she was a friend, but I didn't know. Maybe I was family. She was in this big hug. And like the most beautiful woman in the door was giving me a hug. And to this day, she still doesn't.
And she's got this adorable gap in her front teeth. But take all of that away. She is sitting there. This is Nia Jones. I am such a fan. I should start singing it up. She's not going to be singing.
Yes. Go up and up and up.
I love that song.
So Heather, should I start?
Yeah, so let me just thank you all for coming. This is our event for Gloria's late husband's book of short stories. Are you all familiar with it? Yeah, so Gloria will be talking a little bit about it, and you're reading a bit, right? Yeah. You're reading a bit and then answering questions. So I guess think of questions.
If you have questions, I will have to do a seance to reach Jim, who is in heaven, of course.
Thing you do all is
That was funny.
Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is the cover. I don't think there's anybody here old enough. But it's
That's not true.
Name. Okay, this is the bar that is mentioned in all 7 stories. This is the bar where Jim hung out. This is the bar where artists and David Runyon figures hung out, mafia-style people hung out. And it was called the Bourbon House Bar and Restaurant, or Restaurant and Bar. The insignia is still here. I was so lucky to find this in the New Orleans Historical. And I found the picture, but they couldn't sell it, so I had to buy it from the Getty. Now, this bar, if you go down to St. Peter and Bourbon, go to the corner, it's still there. The actual physical wooden bar is still there. That's about all. The rest of it, even the floor, I think, is the same. It's now called Cornet, C-O-R-N-E-T, because the story goes that at one time in its history, it was owned by a Jewish family who lent Louis Armstrong the money to buy his first trumpet, his cornet. And if you go into this place, all over the place, they're telling you about that. That didn't exist when Jim was there. The rest of the picture, the bar is there. The rest of the picture is of a second line parade. I'm sure you recognize and hear that if you live like me, like I do in the quarter. Now, what's the second line parade doing there? It's a funeral for the closing of this bar on September 29th.
That's my birthday.
September 29th,
There you go.
1964. Now, by 64, Jim was gone. These stories are all 1959 and 60. By 64, he had gone back to get a doctorate. Because he was between degrees. So when he got there, it was after he got his master's, and he went back to University of North Carolina for his degree. But tell me where in the world you would find a second line funeral procession for a bar that's closing. This is, only in New Orleans. Yeah.
Can I add a post-mortem to that?
I wish you would.
So in New York City,
Oh,
where Louis, of course, spent his last couple of years.
yeah, Queens.
He lived in Queens.
Queens.
And he's entombed in a cemetery in Queens. And if you ride the number 7 train on your way to a Mets game, you can actually see his tombstone with his name on it.
From the subway?
From the 7 train.
From the
yes.
7 train.
You can actually, if you know where to look.
Okay, you guys, yeah, you guys, New York birds, yes, okay. So, a little bit about Jim, besides the fact that he had a PhD. He was Professor Emeritus of History and American Studies, teaching at the University of Louisiana in Lafayette, where I met him, for some 30 years. He was the author of a number of nonfiction books, some rather popular, famous, I'm not sure how popular, but Theater in the Antebellum South, on theater history in the South. He wrote The African American Experience, was published in 1974, and I just met him when that thing came out. And it was one of the last books about African American or black culture written by a white man. Nowadays, you really couldn't get one published if you were white. So, but this was the very beginning of that kind of cultural interest. He also was very interested in ethnicity. He even developed a course in ethnicity. And one book he wrote was called The People Called Cajuns. So he was looking at what makes these people different from other people. He developed a course in which he had a different ethnic group come in every week. So if you were Italian, one of his colleagues was Italian, would come in and he would have a whole set of questions like, what did your family like to eat? You know, that kind of thing. I was his ethnic Jew. I came in and told him about matzo ball soup, you know, that kind of thing. But he also wrote, he wrote a number of scholarly articles, got very interested in immigration history, again, before his time, dealing with that. But when he retired in '96, he didn't want to do any more of the library work, the scholarship. So he started doing fiction. I don't have a copy of it with me, but Crossing Rampart Street. But he wrote a book called Crossing Rampart Street. And it was about a colleague of his who was white, a history professor like Jim, who fell in love with a Creole girl and married her, which was illegal. My students never believed that that was illegal. How could it be illegal? But, you know, I have to tell them it was illegal to marry. Racial marriage was forbidden. So that's what this book was about. It was fiction. We found he really liked fiction. So that was the only other book he wrote. He started writing this. He wanted to do 10 stories about characters that he knew in the French Quarter. And he only got 7 before he died. That's the academic Jim. Now I'm going to read you about the Jim that fell in love very young with the Quarter. Not with me, with the Quarter. So it's the first page, the only one I'm going to read from this story, first page called Jake. And this character who appears in all 7 stories is Jim's avatar, Jake Devlin. Jake Devlin had always loved New Orleans. He wasn't born there. He didn't even live there, at least not for any long time. But some part of his family had lived in New Orleans for as long as he could remember. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and one grandparent who lived with a black maid. For this reason, his parents took him to the city for family visits 4 or 5 times a year, mostly holidays, always for Carnival. He made these mandatory visits reluctantly. The relatives' houses always seemed to be dark, brown, and heavy furniture, and there was usually the smell of dust and urine. They were old people. They hugged him and tried to kiss him, but they had bad breath, and he resisted, turning away to avoid their affection. But the visits were bearable because he could always go outside and explore the neighborhoods. He loved those neighborhoods, all of them. One on Napoleon Avenue, another on Elysian Fields, a third on Canal Boulevard. These were big streets lined with trees and divided by wide mediums, neutral grounds, as they were known in New Orleans, all bustling with activity and people who always seemed to be having a good time. The houses along these boulevards had front porches and steps that came down to the street level. All had sidewalks where he could skate or not, or he could simply sit on the porch and watch the people of the street below. He felt excited, but also peaceful when he was in New Orleans, as though something in him needed to be there for him to feel right. And of course there was Carnival. From his aunt's house on Napoleon, he could watch the parades, and nothing was more exciting to him as a child than the floats and the masks, the flambeaux, and the crowds pushing toward the street to catch the throws. And the Carnival food, fried chicken and deviled eggs and potato salad and hot dogs, orange crush and root beer to drink. There was nothing else in his life like Carnival. Nothing in his life was like New Orleans. Nothing. That's the first page of Jake. You'll have to read the rest to find out what the story is, because I haven't read you the story. But this one's a story, and I'm going to read you the first part and the last part, and the middle part involves a Guatemalan girlfriend, and I can't imitate her, so I'm leaving it out. Sorry. This is called Tom the Hat. I first met Tommy at the bar of the Bourbon House restaurant and bar in New Orleans, in the heart of the French Quarter. I already knew who he was, one of a cohort of B-House regulars known collectively as the Hats. I had heard of him before, and because he was a hat, I knew a lot about him even before I met him. The Hats all shared one feature, besides the fact that they wore hats, a variety of styles of hats, day and night, which they wore proudly as indicators of their special status in the quarter. The Hats were all to one degree or another petty crooks. An assortment of Damon Runyon characters who believe or who behaved like a take from Guys and Dolls, though it's doubtful that many of them had ever seen the show. Some were truly bad guys, some only middling bad, and some only bad in a minor key sort of way, not in the least threatening or dangerous. I understood that Tommy was of this last variety. It seemed to me that most of the people worth meeting in New Orleans, most of the real characters, loved bars, as did I. Tom the Hat, Tommy, was worth meeting. Tommy favored snap-brim Stetsons, usually gray, trimmed with wide black grosgrain bands, classy, debonair as he saw it, befitting his purported descent from a wealthy 18th century Philadelphia merchant family by the name of Kendall. In reality, oh, by the way, all the names were changed. I'll tell you one later. In reality, his family had migrated to New Orleans shortly before Tommy was born. They were, in fact, neither wealthy nor of high social status. They were working class folk. His dad was a diesel mechanic who worked in New Orleans East. Tommy was born and raised in the quarter. He rarely ventured out of the quarter, save for visits to the track or other betting venues. In addition to the Stetson, he was wearing a blue suit the day I met him, obviously old, shiny, with a frayed white shirt and tie. He always wore suits and ties, I found out later, and all of them were well worn. He had light brown hair, green eyes, sharp facial features, medium height, and slender, with narrow hips. His shoulders were wide but thin, and his hands were broad with large knuckles. He moved like a cat. Tommy was drinking a beer, no highlight. He didn't acknowledge my arrival at the bar stool next to him, or so I thought. I sat down, ordered a Falstaff. Abe, the bartender, popped one open and put it down on the bar. I reached for it and had a taste. Tommy turned in my direction. You've got long fingers, he observed. You make a good thief. Are you a thief? I looked at him and smiled. No, I'm a writer. Actually, a bartender pretending to be a writer. I am Tom Kendall, at your service, he said. Who are you? My name's Jake Devlin, I told him. Pleased to meet you. Why? Because I like your hat. My pleasure, Tommy insisted, and we shook hands. He also had long fingers. What do you do for a living, I asked him. Whatever comes along, he said. A little of this, a little of that. Right now, I'm spotting peelers for a crooked roofing contractor. What sort of peelers do you spot, I asked him. Peeling roofs. I ride around looking for houses with peeling roofs, and when I find one, I get out and knock on the door. It's usually a lady who appears. I tell her that her roof is in bad shape, and she should get a new one. Then I give her my associate's business card, advising her to contact him as soon as possible. What next? I ask. Sometimes they call him for an estimate. He comes real cheap. The lady signs a contract. He takes a down payment for the job. Then he may or may not come back. My job is just to spot the peelers. Now, what do you do? As I said, I'm a writer. Well, I want to be a writer. I studied creative writing in college. I'm working on a novel. Actually, I don't work on it very much. I also tend bar at Dominic's Jazz Room. Does anybody remember Dominic's Jazz Room? It's still there. It's the Golden Lantern. Golden Lantern.
Oh, wow.
Used to be it used to have a jazz. It's double. The front is a bar and the back is a huge room. And when I was living near there, some 10 years ago, 8 years ago, they still had music and poetry readings in the back room, believe it or not. Dominic, said Tommy, is a crook. Don't trust him. He also thinks I'm a crook. We're both right. Why do you want to be a writer? I don't know, I told him. Maybe it's because I like to tell people I'm a writer. I also wanted to live in the quarter. So here I am working with Dominic, standing bar part-time to make lunch money and beer money. Do you want another beer? Miller, he said. I like the bottle. It's not your ordinary beer bottle. It's got a clear glass, not brown. Classy beer. I like classy things. So we had another round and kept on talking, and I soon realized that Tommy was, as he admitted, a crook. I didn't know as yet how much of a crook, but I suspected that whatever income he had came to him through some sort of petty crime. I didn't really know yet how petty, or whether it may have been more than petty. It didn't matter to me. Tommy was the sort of guy I was in the quarter to meet, a character. He was funny and friendly and obviously sharp, smart. He had a shady side, no doubt whatsoever, louche, but he wanted more than anything to be classy. I liked him. A week or so after meeting Tommy, I was back at the Bee House bar. Once again, he came in and took the stool next to mine. First thing he said to me was, "Do you like boxing?" As a matter of fact, I did like boxing. I followed the local fight scene in the Times-Picayune, and occasionally I took in a fight. Yeah, I do, I told him, as a spectator, not as a participant. You want to go tomorrow night as my guest? Sure, I said. What's the main event? Ralph Dupas versus Denny Moyer. Dupas was a popular local boy, good enough to be considered a possible middleweight contender. I had seen him fight before and I was impressed. He was tough, in great shape, had plenty of power and speed to burn. Good on his feet, very quick. You're on, I told Tommy. You want to meet here? We'll walk over to the arena. 6:30, he said. We'll be there for the whole show. At this point, he looked at his watch. I gotta go, got a job to do. See you tomorrow. He left, and I sat for a long time, drinking beer and talking to friends at the Bee House bar. The next day, at the appointed time, Tommy came back to the bar to pick me up. We walked the short distance to the municipal auditorium across Rampart Street, where the fights were held in those you all know, the municipal auditorium. It's going to be torn down, I understand, very soon. We went into the lobby, past the box office, and were stopped by the doorman. Tickets, he said. Tommy said, wrong entrance. Let's go to entrance B. We did, and this time, Tommy greeted the doorman by name. The doorman waved us in. We took empty seats in the 4th row. Somehow Tommy had known that the legitimate ticket holders for these seats weren't going to show up. I realized at this point that we had sneaked in. But I was Tommy's guest, and he had provided good seats. DuPont won a unanimous decision in 15 rounds and looked really good doing it. He was now top contender in his division. After the fight, we went back to the B house to celebrate. Did you ever do any boxing? Tommy asked me. Only in playground fights, I told him. Did you? Yeah, he said. Up until a couple of years ago. As a lightweight, I fought in the Golden Gloves competition. And then I turned pro. I was doing pretty good. Won my first 5 fights. Then what happened? I asked him. I took a fair-sized payout to throw my 6th fight. After that, I went nowhere. Couldn't get booked for any more fights. Got a few, but they were crummy. Exhibition fights, not much money. Then I quit completely. Ever regret throwing the 6th fight? I asked him. Sometimes I wished I hadn't done it, he admitted, but I did. What's the point of letting it keep bothering me? No point, I guess, I told him. Do you miss fighting? Sometimes, he said. Tommy had a girlfriend. Her name was Katie. She was Guatemalan by birth, actually by birth and upbringing. Katie was one of a group of female immigrants from Guatemala who had arrived en masse in 1959. They all settled in the French Quarter, where they took an apartment on Toulouse Street, not far from Jackson Square. They lived across the street from a popular restaurant called Victor's. Anyone remember Victor's? An Italian place run by one Victor Amato. That's where they hung out. There was a bar, of course, on the ground floor, but the dining tables were upstairs on the 2nd floor. The girls from Guatemala dined there regularly. They also spent a lot of time at the bar, where they attracted male attention. They were all, to one degree or another, cute, lively, and funny, and they spoke enough English to communicate with their admirers. More often than not, they were treated to dinner or drinks upstairs. Useful, indeed, in that they didn't have much income from their day jobs, mostly as sales ladies in the French Quarter or waiting tables at other establishments. They had one other thing in common. Not only were they shapely and well-contoured, they all wore their clothing, no matter what sort of clothing, jeans, dresses, slacks, sweaters, and Sunday finery. They all wore them one size too small. This very much appealed to Tommy. And not only to him, the girls were uniformly popular, and within a short time, 2 of them married locals, one of whom was a good friend of mine. Tommy had become infatuated with Katie from the time he spied her at Victor's bar. She was obviously pretty, deep tan with dark, short, curling hair and big, bright brown eyes. Petite, slim, but full-bodied in the chest and rear. She was altogether a fetching bundle. Or so, at least, thought Tommy, as he watched her sip her creme de menthe frappe and chat with her companion. He moved quickly in her direction, caught her attention, took off his hat, and bowed to her. She turned to look more closely at him, then smiled an invitation. Within 10 minutes, he had her full attention. She laughed a lot. Tommy could be very funny. And in an hour or so, the 2 of them left the bar together. Tommy had his girlfriend. She moved in with him right away. I didn't see him for several weeks after that night. Then one morning, he called me at my apartment. You want to go to the track today? I got a pass for 2, and I got a tip for you. We've got a winner, guaranteed. How so guaranteed, I asked. Trust me. Okay, I'm ready whenever you say. You want me to pick you up? Sure. I'll be waiting on the corner of Chartres and Ursuline. Noon. First race is at 1. I picked him up on schedule on my motorcycle, an ancient Triumph, and on the way over to the fairgrounds, I pushed him. Guarantee a winner. Tommy, he's been juiced. I think I know what that means, but I didn't know it before I ever, read it. I wasn't sure how to handle this. Who had juiced him? What the hell? Why not? I'd risk $10 on him just for fun. So we parked the Triumph at the fairgrounds lot. We found the seats at the clubhouse, good seats. We got our bets down, and I was surprised when Tommy bet $200 on Handsome Lad. When the third race started, our horse jumped out to 2-length lead within 100 yards. He widened his lead 3 lengths at the first lap. He was flying. Then, 40 or so yards into the second lap, he began to limp. Handsome Lad had pulled up lame. I looked at Tommy. He was ashen. His normal insouciance was gone. Oh, Christ, he choked out. I'm in deep shit. Why? What's up? As it turned out, he needed the money. He had bet everything he could put together on Handsome Lad. Now he was completely broke, and he owed money to the one who provided the tip on the race. Worst of all, he and Katie had decided to get married. He had planned to win big at the races, then marry her, find some kind of real job. He'd never had a real job, so he wasn't sure how to get one. But somehow, he felt that I could help him. Man, I said, do you really want to get married now? Maybe you could put it off until you get a job. Tommy waited to respond to this. Problem is, Katie may be pregnant. Must have happened the first night we spent together. Guatemalan girls are pretty fertile. To the corner, I dropped him off at his apartment. Try to help him. If I came up with anything, I'd let him know. I had no idea what to suggest. As it worked out, it didn't matter. He called me in a couple of days. Man, he said, I got it covered. I read in the want ads that Antoine's was hiring waiter trainees. So I applied, and they took me. I start work tonight bussing tables, but they tell me I'm going to make waiter soon. They thought I had class. And he did indeed go to work and went into training. A week or so later, he came by my place. He was pretty excited. A director of the wait staff had given him a chance to move ahead quickly, put him under the direction of an experienced waiter, and gave him an annotated wine list of the restaurant's fabled wine cellar. Tommy was to study it carefully. He wanted to know what I knew about wine. Not much, I admitted, but Antoine's appeared to be serious about Tommy's potential. And Tommy appeared to be serious about the job. And it may have been so, but something bad had to happen. He showed up at my apartment one morning at 9 o'clock, rang the bell. I let him in. The first thing he said was, I got fired. Why? I asked him. Because I took all the tip money last night. The tip money. Every night at closing time, the tips were collected by the whole wait staff. Busboys, trainees, waiters, everybody who had worked the dinner service pooled the tips. That's before the days of, credit cards and these little dumb devices that they put on your table to pay. So there was a lot of cash. The head waiters got the most. Everybody worked, and each one got a share based on the job. Head waiters got the most, busboys got the least. All this was determined at closing time, when the bookkeeper tallied the evening's total and converted the assortment of coins and bills into cash to be doled out the next day. The actual distribution took place the next morning. But Tommy had waited around, unnoticed, until the evening's take was accumulated and bagged, and then he lifted the whole bag. He got caught on his way out and was fired on the spot. He could have been prosecuted for attempted theft, but management decided not to bring charges. They preferred to avoid bad publicity for Antoine's. Tommy, I asked him, why? You seem to be doing fine on the job. What happened? I needed the money. So I'm skipping the middle part of this to give you the very last escapade. I didn't see any of the Kendall family or Tommy for a couple of weeks. Then one morning he called me, asked me whether he could come over to talk. Of course he could, I told him. So in about 10 minutes he rang the bell, he came in, and I got coffee. What's up, I asked. I've got a certain job to do. This will be a large job, the sort of work I've never done, but the prospects look good. What sort of job? I inquired. Well, it involves a safe. Some guys I know about this safe at Victor's, second floor office, behind the restaurant. They want me to help them lift it. Man, I said, surprised, I didn't know you were into that kind of thing. I'm not. Not normally, anyway. Occasionally. But in this case, I don't have much choice. I need the money. Why are you telling me about this, I asked. Because I don't know how well it will come out. I really need the money. But if it doesn't come out well, he trailed off. Katie is definitely pregnant. Little Tomasino is on its way. She doesn't know anything about the safe job. But if anything goes wrong, he trailed off. Tommy, I'm not sure what you're asking me to do. Just make sure she gets back to her family in Guatemala, he said. How the hell am I supposed to do that? I'll give you the contact information. Call her family. They have money. Tell them she needs help. They'll take it from there. They all speak English. About like Katie, he said. You sure you really want to do this? I asked him. Man, I've got to do this. I owe money to some very bad guys. Worse than I told you. They're leaning on me. You know what I mean? The safe is what they want. I didn't say a word for a long minute. Then, Tommy, I'll do anything I can. But isn't there any way out of this? Not alive, he said. So Tommy had to work with the two other guys he knew and did not like or trust. He felt he had no choice. The three of them were going to take a small pickup truck to Toulouse Street and park it just in front of Victor's restaurant at about 3 a.m. in the morning on a weekday. They were going to break into the restaurant, not difficult to do, and on the second floor of the building, in an office behind the dining room, sat the safe. They were going to open it and steal its contents. Simple enough. Except that none of them knew much about opening locked safes. Tommy didn't either. Nor did they have any trouble. No, I'm sorry. They did not have any trouble finding the safe. It was right where it was supposed to be. Then the problems commenced. They couldn't do anything at all with the combination. Not too surprising. They were prepared to blow the safe if necessary, but they weren't sure how to the explosive charge. So they made a decision to take the whole safe, to lift the whole thing, carry it, push it to the second floor balcony, and drop it into the truck bed below. You know, it was heavy. It was heavy, probably about 200 pounds. They managed to pull it out to the balcony, just over the pickup truck. But they couldn't lift it over the balcony rail. So they sawed off the top of the balcony and pushed the safe to the very edge of the overhang, and then pushed it over the edge into the truck 12 feet below. The safe didn't land on the truck bed. It landed on the rear half of the cab, reducing it to rubble and rendering the truck defunct. It made a stupendous noise when it hit, shook the ground all around the parking spot. Within 5 minutes, the police arrived, sirens blaring, top lights flashing, 2 patrol cars, 4 cops, all jumped down and began trying to understand what had happened. They had flashlights shining everywhere, looking for people who might have seen something. The neighbors living nearby were, by this time, out on the balcony trying to see what was going on, but no one had actually seen the safe fall, and none had seen people anywhere around the truck. The 3 perpetrators had exited through the rear door of the restaurant, and by this time they were running in different directions through the quarter. One bounding toward the river, one toward Rampart Street. The cops picked them up within minutes. The 3rd perp had vanished completely. But I'm not reading the end of the story. And the last thing I'm going to read is just the first page of Chuck. I knew some of these people. I didn't know all of them, but I knew some of them.
We all know people like that.
You all know people like that. Oh, okay. Chuck. There is a manhole on St. Peter's Street in the French Quarter, about 2 feet from the curb at the Bourbon Street intersection. The cover of this manhole is emblazoned with the provenance Cologne Brothers Company, 1939, which suggests that the manhole has been at this location for some time, largely unnoticed by passers-by, mostly tourists. To many quarter residents, on the other hand, this manhole marked the center of the world, the axis mundi, through which most of the world's population would pass sooner or later. At approximately 1:30 in the morning on August 30th, 1959, one of these residents, Charles Mishkivsky, Chuck to most residents, emerged from the Bourbon House restaurant and bar, fell over, and passed out with his head resting on the manhole cover. Ever alert to such circumstances, the NOPD, locals translate this acronym as "not our problem, darling," arrived. That's for people outside. That's maybe why to look elsewhere in the country. Ever alert to such circumstance, the NOPD arrived, lights flashing, sirens screaming. One officer left the patrol car, stood over Chuck's recumbent figure, prodded him with one foot. Chuck remained unresponsive. "Get up!" the officer commanded. No response. At this juncture, a friend of Chuck's, by the name of Jake Devlin, emerged from the bee house and noticed the police drama break out. Jake approached the officer. "Sir," he announced, "Chuck here's been drinking." "No shit," said the officer, "but no one ever gets this comatose from drinking. I'll call an ambulance." "Sir," Jake persisted, "Chuck gets this way fairly often. He'll be okay." "If he's just drunk," the officer said, "we'll take him in for disturbing the peace, let him dry out in the drunk tank." "But sir," "Hey, really?" At this moment, Chuck began to mutter. "Fucking faggots," he mumbled twice. At this point, Jake intervened. "I'll take him home," he offered. "I'll put him to bed." Chuck raised one hand, Jake grabbed Chuck to his feet. Just one more paragraph. Sasha, you're missing your parade. What? Parade person.
It's a second line parade.
You know that?
There they go. You can see them down the hall. Does anybody want a topper for your wine or get one that you didn't get in the first place? Okay. We have a white that hasn't been opened or a Pinot Noir.
Some people were racist and
You use that word, not to me.
let's finish the story. At this point, Jake intervened. I'll take him home, he offered. Put him to bed. Chuck raised one hand and Jake grabbed it, trying to help Chuck to his feet. Before Chuck was able to get up, the police car received an emergency call. The arresting officer jumped in his car, forgot about Chuck, and took off with sirens screaming, turning into Bourbon Street. 3 more people emerged from the bar, noted the circumstances, and joined Jake in the effort to get Chuck off the ground. With this assistance, he managed to get to his feet. He wobbled noticeably and nearly fell down again before reaching out to steady himself with the help of his saviors. He looked around, gained some sort of orientation, and then said, "Let's have a drink." That's Chuck. Chuck is
Yay.
the story tells
Hey,
you.
everybody.
You ever wanted to know about these artists who are out on the plaza doing these truffle sketches? That's what Chuck did for a living. He was a fine artist, but had no job, no money, except framing pictures for
I like to drink way too much.
galleries. He did the framing. You know, I mean, he had talent in visual arts, but didn't have even enough to get a job at a college or high school to teach. And the story is really fun because he picks up these girls in the plaza that does sketches and says, "I'm going to do new sketches of you that are going to be immortal." And they all come and take their clothes off, and he does all. So it's a lot.
And a sculpture even.
Yeah.
Get, and there's some weird
Question.
homoeroticism too.
Comments. Did any of you live there?
So what
Did
year,
any of you know?
what years is the story taking place?
59, 60. Yeah, but and Jim knew them until I knew Mike. I knew Mike well. He lived above that corner store on Frenchman Street that is a bookstore that has a kind of incredible variety of books. That this another one. Yeah. You know which ones are yeah. Frenchman Street on the corner.
You know the
And
ones I mean.
the guy is Mike in this book.
The ones that they call adult
At,
books, perhaps.
bar across the street, that's where Jim drank with him, even after I married. So I knew Mike, I knew Chuck. I never knew Tommy the Hawk. But then,
Well,
you know.
he kind of disappeared.
I didn't know Dom. Dom was the owner of the Gold Rush, the Gold.
What is now the
Dominic's
Gold
Bar.
Rush.
It was called Dominic's Bar and Jazz Room. And then when I lived around the corner on Orleans Street, it changed the name to the Gold Rush, Gold Lantern. That's it.
Golden.
And who's the other one? And I knew Leanne as well. Oh, and I knew Bruce. You know who Bruce was? You all know Bruce Price, the artist who did all those marvelous. He was always at Jazz Fest selling his prints, and I knew him. And the story is about how he got to marry his white wife when they threw him out over and over again at the courthouse. He finally figured out how to get around that and shamed everybody. But I changed the names because when I was working on editing it, I met someone at the Tennessee Women's Festival who was a publisher. I said, look, I'm working on a book that all the stories are true. It's, you know, it's fiction, but it's true. It all happened. But these names, they're going to be people who remember. Should I use the names or should I change them? Ah, he said, with great wisdom, he said, if the book is a failure, or if it doesn't sell,
But no one would care.
it won't matter at all. We can use the names. But if the book is a success, if someone makes a movie of it, or a play, or anything based on it, every one of those people are going to come after you for money. Change the names.
So no Victor's Restaurant? That wasn't a real place?
That is.
Victor's, yeah, there's a mistake here.
It's
Jim had
minor.
written that Victor's was on our salon. I went to the historic ruins collection and got pictures. The guy said this restaurant isn't a restaurant, it's a Toulouse. So the last minute I wrote the publisher to change it to Toulouse. And the editor had just moved on. Deborah Moore at UA. She just left. I don't know who they had doing what was left of the editing, but they didn't change it in the second place. So in one place it says Ursula, and the other says Toulouse Me and Papa.
Oh, that's just part of changing the names.
Well, it was an error by the original author, so maybe it's a posthumous error. It could be left.
And the stories are real. Those
Oh,
are
yeah.
changed.
That's true.
We're too young, and some of you are probably not, but we would never know whether it's the real person or not. We're just going to enjoy the story.
I think Bruce Bryce is still around.
Probably.
But they did have a Bruce Bryce Arts section at the Jazz Festival.
Mm.
Yes.
Bruce Bryce Arts Village, I think it's called.
Oh, that's good. I wonder if his wife is.
Thank you for coming.
I moved here in 1999, and it says the city already. So I read Louis Armstrong's biography and read everything that I could. And there was a lot of implication that the Italian families were still,
Oh, sure.
the money was still intact. And so
Yeah.
I wanted to open a shop, and I was worried, like,
Probably not.
do you know when or if that ever kind of phased out? Or the family still here? And it's still
Yeah, but they're not going to come to your shop and shake you down for protection. They don't do that anymore.
And the reason I know is my balcony faces the church, and they stop there, and the stories about the mafia are incredible. I would read some.
They do make them amusing.
They have actually very violent history.
Sure.
Murder was pretty.
Isn't the BK house where the Black Hand murder story is? Okay.
And Mrs. Kai's bought that piece of property that was supposed to be the spaghetti factory, or was the spaghetti factory.
Sugar factory. Yeah, so there's so much history here. You could listen to 5 different tours, even if 3 of them are vampires, and you learn something that you've never knew before. The city is just so rich. I want to say that, like, I don't know if I did at the beginning, how grateful I am to have been given this beautiful patio by Dauphine Street Books, wonderful bookstore. I'm very grateful. Thank you. And I'm so glad all of you came.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. If you'd like Gloria to sign a book for you, she can
I'll
sit
move.
here at this table. And she'd be happy to.
Yeah, and you can have a topper if you didn't get any. Please help
I
yourself.
want to fill up again. You know, when we first planned this, I had the sense that, you know, there was no permission for wine. And then I thought, what would Jim think if I read his book and there was no wine? A dry reading would be how sad. So, yes, yeah. And when it's made into a movie, we'll have another party, okay? We'll have a screening. So we'll do it right here. I'm so glad you told me to do it. So glad you came. Yeah.
That was wonderful.
That's such a pretty spot, you know, it's so nice when you can describe it to people. You know, I have a client, because I'm trying to like change it to different ways, to do mediation type of examination. So I was trying to get into like tech. Anyway, I have a client, and I said, come to me for find out his family owns a property in there. So I'm thinking to myself, well, then that's good because I have money. And I said, let me describe to you where my family is. I was like, I don't know that I am. So well, I said, trust me, you know where it is. Describe your confidence. He's like, I'm not so sure. I think I know what you're talking about. You enjoy it. And I said, and he's like, that's where he started the Civil War. And he kept thinking, he's like, oh, my sister was married. They didn't know where I lived because that was right next to the Burger House. He's like, oh, that red. So it's funny because, you know, it's a remarkable location. And so maybe we can see that absolutely. And then I'm like, oh my God, who the hell is coming to the front door? And then he puts on his hat and walks away. It's not like get enough courage to go out into the living room and the kitchen area. So you can see he's gone. But yeah, I can see him. And people come down the street screaming stuff like, I died, and why didn't you take me? Why didn't you take me? Screaming angrily at the Lord. That incredible. That's unbelievable. These other stuff happens. We didn't know these because it's so authentic and raw. People look at that and say, it's my great eyes. It looks so creepy. It comes out of the fog. It's creepy. He needs to die. And he's got this weird stuff hanging off of him. It's just like, oh, no. That's also for her. Changing the weather is so intense. It takes So when you come into the community, she's in New York, New Jersey, and then she does, she flips it. You come here, one guy, she comes here.
And I was looking at this on
Unless you're a maverick, but didn't have any of this comorbidities or anything, you're like freezing things, making away from this. Seriously, and that's what they did. They kept control from having accidents. So I tell you, you couldn't come to the hospital. I know, really was like, I'm going to go. I was the first one. What did they do? Yes, I'm arrested. Carry me away. At least I was trying.
Okay, so neighbors, we'll see you all next weekend. Yeah, you're back for
Like somebody calls Microsoft and they have many accident. I don't know. Hey, Carol. All right. Thank you. Congratulations. This will be an easy day. Yeah, well, it's funny. We actually left a couple of things in. I know a whole lot of people joke about the possible because he actually made
So I'll cruise through this one.
but he also thank you. These things smile us. We call it the mob monkeys. Monkeys all the time. And it's spelled wrong, but I like the way he spelled it. So we left it and totally misspelled throughout the book. But like maybe it'll be a thing. MONKEYS or something like that. Yeah. There's some weird stories, but Tom had was a good story. And it's the same one that we read at his memorial service that we did in New York. So I had read it, but now I should probably consider the book. So I know that story better than any of them. It's there's some other stories that have a different cadence and feel. They're more emotional. So if you know Jim, you'd appreciate it. Maybe someday you can take her read. I'll give you my copy.
It has been so really, it kicked in, like it was for a while, I was just ready to turn around and then all that just now so like I was I missed a very important document that transfers one online the entire a separate schedule.
Unless we're like swimming or I'm just like, oh, what else? Oh, I sat down. Yeah. So I'm like, this is like terrible. We're going in the wrong direction. Yeah, that's fun.
Some of the other stuff.
You coming home with me? Yes.
That's all.
Exactly. So it's weird, like undertones. You know, she's getting more
I know they had some people that got locked in or stuff.
Everything is uneven.
It's not very high. So these little trees on the your acres. I will forget. Right now, we're trying to get some tax. Because that's silly, you know, there is like matters and bounds.
Remember that. We will definitely stay in touch. I enjoyed it. Thanks for talking about it. Bye.
It's so nice meeting you.
Thank you. Now if I can find my way back through the maze here.
Yeah.